Hi, this video is about the supporting documents that you will need to have for an EEA family permit or EUSS family permit, so EU Settlement Scheme family permit, as an unmarried partner. Now, this is a special category of application, and at the moment as an unmarried partner from outside of Europe, from outside of the European Union, coming in on this basis, you're looking to come into the UK or remain here or reside here long term on the basis of your relationship with an EU national who's living in the UK. And at the moment, this is a category of application you can only make under the EEA Family Permit regime, which relies on the European regulations. In due course, in 2021, you will very likely have to apply under the European Settlement Scheme regime. But at the moment, as an unmarried partner, you fall within the category of an extended family member, and you need to apply for an EEA family permit. So, although this is a narrow category, I think a lot of people are caught by this, and I have advised on this very recently. So I'm going to talk about the documents that you will need. Now, I'm just going to run through a list of them, but the reality is that normally evidence of 2 years cohabitation is required, and most people will not be able to satisfy this. So many people maybe are applying to join their European family member in the UK, and therefore they're not living together now. And others may be living together but in a different jurisdiction outside of Europe and looking to come together to the UK, or you may have been living apart for a long period of time. Now, the usual evidence that's required I've put in the description just below, and you can check it out. But I want to tell you about what you can do if you don't have some or all of these documents. So the first one is evidence of 2 years cohabitation. So this would typically include utility bills, and the guidance on this is pretty thin from the government's perspective. So normally you would need, and if you're making an application under the immigration rules, then you would need 6 pieces of evidence in your joint names, for example, joint utility bills, bank statements, etc. Or if you don't have that, then 12 pieces of evidence for, so 6 for each of you, but referencing the same address. So to show that you've been living together. So that's a rule of thumb. But as I say, what if you haven't been living together? I'm going to come to that in a minute. None of this arises, of course, if you're married. If you're married, then you only require evidence of the marriage certificate. Now, the other ones I've listed here are tenancy or mortgage statements, bank statements, rental agreements in your joint names, evidence of joint finances, if you have a mortgage together, for example, evidence of joint responsibility for children. But what if you don't have children? I'm coming to that in a minute. A birth certificate or custody agreement showing that you're cohabiting, or other evidence demonstrating your commitment and relationship. Now, because the test here is whether you have a durable relationship, the way this is usually assessed under UK law is on a discretionary basis, the starting point being whether you've lived together for 2 years. But although that's a common test that's used under the immigration rules, it's not a definitive test for the purposes of European law, because we're looking here at European law, not merely domestic law. Now, because of this, if you have not been living together for 2 years, then it's still possible to succeed if you've been in a long-standing relationship over many years. but you haven't lived together. It's still possible to succeed. But I would have to say that from the outset that you may have to get this before an immigration judge. Remember, you're going to have a right of appeal here. Both engages Article 8 family rights and European EU treaty principles on free movement. But you're going to be up for a fight here if you haven't been living together for 2 years. So that means you could expect an initial refusal and then get it before an immigration judge. So you're looking at a number of months' work. But the other point is you'd be looking to get all of the evidence you can before the initial decision maker. So let me come to the key point now. If you haven't been living together, then the sort of documents that you'll be providing will be more personal in nature than would otherwise be the case. You would be going into it's more of an intrusive exercise, because given that you can't evidence your relationship through a common address, you'd be looking at providing a number of things. Let me run through them. So first of all, a chronology of the time that you've spent together. So if you haven't been living together, how long have you actually been together at the same address? Definitely in the same country, but at the same address. Now, it's possible here for the European partner to have been already in the UK, and for someone, and for the other partner to be joining from outside of Europe. Now, if therefore you've been coming into the UK in and out of the UK, you've been doing so on the basis of a visitor permission. So either you're a non-visa national and you've been coming backwards and forwards, let's say you're an Australian national, for example, and you haven't needed to apply for a visa, or you've actually had to apply for a visa. But either way, you've been coming into the UK on the same basis. And that basis is that you have been coming into the UK making a representation, implied or express, that the UK is not your home. It's not your main home. And you're also coming into it on the basis that your travel has not been frequent or successive. Now, there used to be a rule under the immigration rules, which was that you should not spend more than 180 days a year in the UK on visitor permission. However long that visitor visa was, if it was multiple entry and lasting for several years, you still could only come in for 180 days in any 12-month period. Now that's only a rule of thumb, and if you're going through the E-gates now, you won't get a stamp, but the test is essentially is not 180 days as a general rule. It's simply whether your visits are frequent or successive, and whether you've made the UK your main home. That's not permitted under visitor permission. So the reason I mention all of this is that you've got to be careful when you're making representations about your relationship, that you're saying that, this is effectively my main home. I live with him or her, and this is my main home. So if you've been coming in as a visitor, you will want to be able to say, if it is the case, that you've been complying with your visitor permission. One point to look out for as well is that sometimes there are stamps, and I've seen recent examples of this, where if you don't go through the E-gates and you're stamped, then it does actually say in the stamp on your passport 180 days maximum. And I think it's just because some people are using the older version of the stamp. So you have to look out for that. But either way, you'll want to ensure that you're not making any representations that imply that you have actually made the UK your home, because then your application could be refused on compliance grounds, on conduct grounds, effectively, that you've breached the rules previously. So that's something to bear in mind. But the chronology of your visits to the UK is going to be important, because that's how you'll show that you're in a durable relationship without it having been your home, your main home. So that's number one, the chronology. Number two is, what's another way of evidencing your relationship in the absence of joint utility bills, etc.? Well, holidays are one of them. So if you've had holidays together, then hopefully you'll be able to evidence them. Most things are on email these days. So you would be able, hopefully, to evidence hotels and flights and be able to show that you've had holidays together. That's an important factor and something you can evidence. Thirdly, and this is mentioned in the UK guidance as well, but it's photographs of you being together. And in some of the cases that I've been involved in the past, there's actually a huge book or portfolio, if you like, of photographs that are dated to evidence the genuineness of the relationship over a period of time. And what you can sometimes do is show that there's a time stamp. So sometimes you can print out your photographs, like from your iPhone or your Android phone, where you actually have a timestamp from the phone, a time and date stamp, which is great. So, photographs ordered chronologically to evidence the duration of the relationship. Not every single one, but one for every period of time, or perhaps for significant events, if you graduated together, that sort of thing. The next thing, point 4, is confirmations from people around you. Now, if you, perhaps not everyone is religious, but if you have, if you go to church, perhaps even if you're not living together, if perhaps on occasion you've gone to church together, or you have another religious community and you have a figure in that religious community who can confirm that you've attended together, that they're aware of your relationship, then that's an example of one authority figure or respected member of your community who can confirm that they're aware that you are in a relationship, you have been in a relationship for a number of years, and it is a genuine relationship, and they plan to live together. Part of durability is the forward vision, even if you're not married now. Other people who could provide confirmations of your relationship and the fact it's subsisting and durable are your parents on each side, other community figures, some people from your professional circles, if you're both working or in business, and then probably at the bottom of the rung is friends, perhaps long-standing friends who've known both of you, both people in the couple, and can confirm the durability of the relationship. Then we come on to social media. So what used to be done a number of years back, perhaps before social media blew up, was you would have telephone logs. And telephone logs, of course, it's the only way in recording telephone conversations. But if you have telephone logs showing daily conversations between you and your couple going back several years, then that would be important evidence. And the next one is, of course, people don't use telephone as much these days. So we're talking about WhatsApp and, Facebook Messenger and this sort of thing. But when it comes to WhatsApp, for example, with WhatsApp, you don't have to necessarily produce all the messages. You might be able to produce the call log. And in fact, there's a way of producing a WhatsApp call log. So if you can extract that data for the phone, again, there's a way of doing that, and show those communications throughout the course of your relationship, then that's additional evidence. So basically, if you haven't been living together for 2 years, then and you're unmarried, then you're in for a challenge, and as I said, probably a fight, but you're going to have to produce a huge or very significant portfolio of evidence in the absence of the other evidence that would ordinarily be expected in order to make out your case. So, as I say, the current position is you, as a durable partner, extended family member, you will need to apply for the EEA family permit. And in due course, from likely January 2021, I'll do another video about this at the time, you'll need to apply under the EU settlement scheme program. And by that time, your partner, European partner in the UK, will have needed to have applied for pre-settled or settled status in order to do this. But at the moment, even if they apply for pre-settled or settled status now, you still need to apply under the EEA family permit regime if you're an unmarried partner. So I hope that's helpful. I'm just going to, because this is a live stream, I'm just going to check if you have any questions. Thank you very much for joining, Morgan, Khalid, Jack, and Leonie. Thanks for your comments. I can't see any questions for now, but of course, if you do have any, drop them in the comments below, or you can contact me on the details below. Thanks very much. I will see you in the next live stream. Bye for now.